name is Leilani, and today I'll be interpreting a TED Talk called The Power of Vulnerability, given by Breen Brown, an author and professor who shares many views alike to mine. So I'll start like this. A couple of years ago, this event planner called me because I was going to do a speech event. And she called and she was like, well, I'm really struggling on what to write about you on this little flyer. And I was like, well, what's the struggle? And she went on and she said, well, I hear that you're a researcher, but I'm afraid that if I do put that you're a researcher, no one will come because they'll think you're irrelevant and boring. And I said, okay. And she went on and she said, well, I hear your talk, and you're a storyteller. So that's what I think I'll put. I'll put you as a storyteller. And the academic, insecure part of me was not okay with this. So I said, you'll put me as a what? And she said, a storyteller. So I said, ma'am, can you give me a minute? So I called deep on my courage and I thought, you know, maybe I am just a storyteller. I'm a qualitative researcher. It's what I do. I collect data, and maybe stories are just data with a soul. So I said, you know what? Why don't you just call me a researcher storyteller? And she actually laughed at me, and she said, haha, there's no such thing. So I'm a researcher storyteller, and I'm here to talk to you about expanding perception and how it changed my life, the way I live, the way I work, and the way I parent. For me, where it all begins is with connection. It's what brings us together. Neurobiologically, it's how we're wired. Whether you work in social services with homeless people, as a teacher, it's what we know. Connection is what we know. And about 6 weeks into this research, I came into something totally unnamed, something I'd never heard of, an emotion I have never experienced before. And what it turned out to be was shame. Shame is easily understood as the fear of disconnection. What I can tell you about it is that it's universal. We all experience it. And if you don't have the capacity for human emotion or empathy. And so this was damning information for me. I didn't know what to expect. But I went on and I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to give myself a year. I'm going to outsmart vulnerability. I'm going to understand it, and I'm going to beat it. And so I was ready, and I was excited, but it didn't go well, as you know. So what I can tell you about vulnerability is that everyone experiences it. And that, me, personally, I hate it. So I went into it. Thousands of interviews, many stories, and lots of conversation. But if I had to break it down for you, had to sum it up, from all the people I interviewed, I could take them and I could cut them right down the middle. And it would be a group of people who had a strong sense of love and belonging, and a group of people who simply lacked it. The group of people who had a strong sense of love and belonging believed that they were worthy. That's it. They believed that they were worthy. These people were couraged. They had the courage to do things where they didn't know there would be guarantees, like saying I love you first in a relationship. They were willing to do things where they didn't know if their emotions would be reflected in. They were willing to breathe after their doctor was giving them a monogram. And so, I cannot believe, me, as a qualitative researcher, I could not believe that, my job is to predict and research, that these people were wholehearted. The first thing that came to my mind when I found out there's these two groups was that these are wholehearted people. Simply put, these are wholehearted people with the courage to be imperfect. And what else? They're authentic. They were authentic to themselves. They connected with themselves first before they opened themselves to the outside world. Because as it turns out, you need to know who you are in the beginning to be able to connect with other people. And what else? The crazy thing, the shocker. Here it goes. They embrace vulnerability. They were able to do things where they were able to connect with themselves first. They were able to talk to other people first. They were able to embrace what might happen. So the theme, the pattern, the reoccurrence was that these people were authentic. These people had the connection with other people. These people were able to embrace themselves, embrace other people, whether it came from shame or vulnerability or connection. So, I cannot believe, me, as a qualitative researcher, that the way to live with vulnerability is to stop controlling and predicting. completely contradicting my job as a researcher storyteller.